Hello, everyone. I am delighted to be here today at the ETHR Phoenix Summit event. I wish I could be there with you in person, but one of the good things that COVID has taught us is that in a virtual world, we can still stay connected. I'm so glad to be able to talk to all of you at what I think is a very important moment in what I would call reinventing the workplace, reinventing work, reinventing the workforce. And it's a moment where being more human is combined with being more digital and using more technology. So I'm going to share a bit of my thoughts on this subject. Let me start by saying that never has the whole topic of people, the health and well-being of people, being as central to the business as it is today. Never, not in my 29 years of career, not in my years of being in human resources, never has the topic of looking after the health and well-being of our people been so central to the performance of the business, to the performance of the supply chain, to the performance of the customer teams, and so on and so forth. So we are at a very, very important moment. My first advice or counsel to all leaders listening on this call is that this is a moment of reimagination for all of us. This is a moment where we must say, how can we learn from what we've been through the last 18 months and we are going to go through yet for the next year or two? How can we learn from this and reimagine the way we work? How can we challenge our traditional employee ways of working? How can we reinvent work itself? It is such an important moment of reimagination and reinvention for us. I mean, all through these 18 months, every single one of us has asked ourselves, do we need to continue working the same way we always did? Work for 40, 50 weeks in a year, work for 40, 50 years in the same organization, wake up every morning, commute for a couple of hours, get to work, commute back. Shouldn't we be challenging all of this? Because we've learned new lessons on productivity, on work-life balance integration, and many, many other things. So my first key message to all leaders in this call is do not waste this moment. Use this moment to reimagine things. Now, why do I believe that we must seize this moment? And I will share a little bit about how Unilever is trying to use this moment for reimagination. Why is this important? This is important because while technology should have increased our productivity, all the new things we have, tools and gadgets and things that should make our life easier at work has not made it easy at work. We work far longer hours than any generation. We spend more time working than many, many generations before us. We are more stressed. We are more anxious. There are more mental health challenges now than ever before. 60% of youth between the ages of 18 and 25, recent survey in the US, say that they're mentally stressed because of work. And work is not giving all the fulfillment and joy, it's giving more stress and anxiety. So that's why I believe so passionately that this is a moment of reimagining work so that work becomes joyful for everyone. So let me talk a little bit about what we're trying to do in Unilever to reimagine work, to reimagine workplace. The first thing we're saying is we've made some massive social commitments because we believe that COVID has increased inequality in the world. There's inequality between people working in factories, people who still go to work every single day in exactly the same way as they did before COVID, and people who are in more office-based jobs, who are now having hybrid working come to them, different ways of working being experimented for them. So this inequality is going up. The inequality between men and women is going up because COVID and coping with the struggles of life has been harder on women leaders than it has been for men. So we are seeing inequality in the world going up. The vaccine have-nots and the vaccine haves. The developed world that is having greater access to vaccines is able to come back to some semblance of normalcy faster than countries that are struggling to find vaccines, where barely 10% of the population has been vaccinated. So it's really important to remember that one size doesn't fit all during this time, that we're all in the same storm, but we're not in the same boat. And in my job, where I globally get to look after the health and well-being of 150,000 people in 190 countries, I see this every single day. The inequality, those who have vaccines, those who don't, those who have hospital infrastructure, those who don't, those who have access to medicines, those who don't, those who have access to tests, those who don't. I see this every single day. And therefore, whatever we do, we have to remember that this reinvention and reimagination has to be done keeping a one size does not fit all approach and mindset as we do it. So at Unilever, one of the things we've done is we've taken social inequality very, very seriously. And we've gone and made 3 big commitments in this period of COVID that we intend to make happen in the next few years. The first is we have said we will pay a living wage to everybody in our ecosystem. And everybody in our ecosystem could be 10 million people. We're still counting. But we'd pay 10 million, we would pay living wage to all our people. We said we would drive the focus on diversity and inclusion. We want to be a beacon for diversity and inclusion in the world. And we said 2 billion of our spend will go to suppliers who are from diverse populations, who are from minority populations, like women, like people who are disabled, people who are from a minority race, and so on and so forth. And the third set of commitment we've made around future of work. And under future of work, we've talked about 3 things. One, that we will reskill and upskill our entire workforce with a future fit skill set by 2025. We have said that we will pioneer new models of employment, giving people flexibility and security so that 100% of our workforce has a chance to try out new employment models by 2025. And this includes people working in factories, people working in our customer-facing jobs, and so on and so forth. And our third commitment is that we will ensure that we are training 10 million young people, 10 million young people across the world, teaching them future fit skills, giving them volunteering experiences, immersion experiences, employment experiences, training them up so they have the skill set to do jobs in this world. Because COVID has impacted the youth very badly as well. Many, many starting level jobs have got impacted. The young have seen this, have found it hard to get into the job market because of what's going on. So we've said we will train up 10 million youth. Now, let me talk a little bit more in detail about why we made these 3 commitments and how it helps us reinvent the workplace. We've said that we have to reskill and upskill all our people because the changes in technology means the half-life of a skill is 2.5, 3 years. Work is changing fast. The way I did HR 10 years ago is not how I do HR today. The way you did marketing 10 years ago is not the way you do marketing today. So we have to reskill and upskill all our people. So every single one of them creates a future fit plan, and then we support them to get skilled and upskilled. We're pioneering new forms of employment. For example, in New Zealand, we've announced the pilot of a 4-day working week where people work 80% of the time, do 100% of their work, get 100% of their salary, and we want to see how that works. So we have announced a trial for the entire year. We are experimenting with something called U-Work in the UK, where people who don't want to work 12 months a year, but want to work 6 weeks to 6 months with an employer like Unilever, has the option to do so. So they get security in the form of an employment contract with Unilever, but they get flexibility in terms of the hours they want to spend at work. So we're experimenting with that in the UK, and now I believe we've done that in 10 other countries, including Malaysia, Argentina, Australia, and so on and so forth. So we're trying and pioneering all these new employment models that give enormous flexibility to people, but combine that with enormous security. We're experimenting with all forms of hybrid working across the world. 3 days in office, 2 days at home, 2 days in office, 3 days at work. different models combination, different timings, different collaboration spaces, different focus spaces at the workplace, for example. Now, those are some of the things we're doing as practical examples to reinvent the workplace and reimagine new ways of working. But let me talk about how all of this is going to come alive, because all of this is going to come alive by putting people at the heart of everything we do. Now, I talk about a more digital workplace being a more human workplace. The more we do to make digital working easy, the more we have to do to focus on human beings. For example, we have a chatbot that answers the first set of queries from people. Una, 6 million transactions happen in Una, where people get to use technology to find answers to their simple queries, to use a Google search kind of functionality to find answers to simple HR queries. But if we've invested in that because I want to free up time of HR people to focus on what really matters, which is on people, individual people, teams, help their performance, help their learning. We are putting all 150,000 people, and I think we're the only organization of our size and scale that's putting all 150,000 people through purpose workshops, to discovering their purpose, to discovering what wakes them up every day and brings them to the workplace. Because I believe when you invest in processes like that, it brings the humanity of people to the workplace. What makes them passionate? What gets them out of bed? What's meaningful for them in what they do? So more human means investing in things like purpose. More human means investing in people's learning. Are you giving them enough opportunity to learn every single day? And to focus on their well-being, mental well-being, emotional well-being. Are you focusing on the well-being of people? Because if they don't feel well, they're not going to give their best at the workplace. There's no chance. One of the things we discovered during COVID was that being in confined spaces was bringing out terrible behaviors in people. Bullying, abusive behaviors was going up. Parents abusing children, children abusing parents, men, women, men. It was just bringing out the worst behaviors in some people being in COVID. So we put a whole supporting infrastructure in place to support our employees who experience any form of bullying or abuse during this extended COVID times. That's what I'm talking about. Constantly thinking about people, understanding that their needs are different, and coming up with different tools, programs, interventions that support people so that they can bring their best selves to work every single day. So if I were to step back and summarize with 3 big messages that I'd love for you to take from my keynote this morning is, 1 is that COVID has taught us many lessons. Let's use this moment to take some of those best lessons that we've learned during this period and reimagine and reinvent our workforce, our work, and our workplace. This is a moment, let's not waste it. My second message to everyone on this call is business has to be a force for good. As business leaders, we always have to think, how do we create a better business? And by creating a better business, build a better world. And that means looking at how we can reduce inequality in the world, inequality in every sense of the word that has got amplified and exacerbated by what's happened during COVID. So what can we do to try and bridge the gap between people who have been fortunate and increasingly so during COVID and those who've not? So how can, as businesses, we do more for the societies that we are a part of? And my third message to you is, technology and digital must enable us to become more human. It must support us to make more human. More digital means becoming more human. High tech means becoming more high touch. High tech, high touch. That's what we should remember. So investments that you make in technology are fantastic. And, we've all learned to live in this digital virtual world, which is why I can speak to you today from London. But remember that all of that, the beautiful tools that we have in technology, the beautiful digital stuff we have, must create workplaces that allow people to bring their humanity to the workplace, to bring the best versions to the workplace, to feel like I can come into the workplace, be joyful, be productive, be happy, feel good, and make my best contribution. Because when each and every person who works in our businesses brings their best self to the workplace, we will have businesses that thrive and flourish. And when businesses thrive and flourish, our world will thrive and flourish. So let's really create workplaces, create work, create a place where everyone can be their best selves. And when we do that, everyone will flourish, the world will flourish, business will definitely flourish. So on that note of let's reinvent and reimagine together to create a better workplace for everyone, let me wish you all a fantastic summit. Learn a lot from each other, share as much as you can, and let's go out there and create a thriving world together.